Hey everyone, my name is Nakia Trader and I am the co-founder of Way of Truth Evangelistic Ministries. I wanted to introduce or announce that we have a new book called What Do I Do Now? Building a Solid Christian Foundation. And this book was written with the intent of new and existing believers establishing a solid foundation in Christ that is founded on biblical truths. You know, we cannot assume that every new believer that comes to Christ, or even a believer that has been walking with the Lord for X amount of time, has a solid foundation. This book is not to exhaust all the questions that any believer may have, but to provide an overview in order for them to seek those answers from God, and also to secure their relationship and their foundation and their belief system in Him. So it's been my absolute pleasure to write this book, and I just wanted to answer some rather cool questions in order for y'all to kind of get to know me and get to know the process that I've gone through. So let's get into it. Where did or do you get your ideas? I'm guessing the idea of this book. The idea of this book came from when my friend became a Christian late December, I believe it was 2016. Or was it 2015? Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, Valencia. But anyway, when she gave her heart to the Lord, she had a lot of questions, right? And I remember she would come to me quite often about, you know, those questions. And I remember one time she confessed that she felt ashamed for coming to me to ask questions because she felt like she should know this now that she's saved. And I did my best at that time to reassure her that, you know, no one has all the answers, and quite frankly, I don't either, and no one's going to have all the answers. But what I do know, I was able to help her with because I've been a new believer, and I was able to help her help answer questions and always point to God and disciple her during that time. So the book, or the idea for this book, really came from her and her new journey. And I realized while being that Christian mentor and during this discipleship moments, that I had those same questions when I was a new believer, and I felt a disconnect because I didn't have anyone to answer those questions for me. This book really was written because of that, and that's where the idea of it came from. So the next question is, what was the writing process like? The process has been tedious, but very exciting, very exhilarating, never exhausting though. I found myself getting really rejuvenized while writing and completely getting lost for hours writing the book. So it's been great. So the next question is, what does literary success look like to you? Well, for me, it looks like not probably what a lot of people would probably say. I don't care too much about reviews or how many people even purchase the book. I'm only concerned about my obedience to writing it. I believe that God has purposed me for that purpose, to write the book and to help other people to build that solid foundation in Him, right? So I'm already successful in light of that because I've been obedient. But it is my desire to see at least one person benefit from this book. So the next question is, what was the hardest part to write? The hardest part to write in the entire book had to be the author's bio. I hated putting it there. I hated writing it. Very much the hardest part, my least favorite part about the entire book. I hated it. But I tell you, the most emotional part obviously was sharing my testimony. It was very therapeutic while writing it. And, you know, 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I started writing it, I was at a different place mentally and spiritually. Really, when I was writing it, I know I was crying a couple of times, and because I was still processing through a lot of those things. But during the editing process of this book, there was no crying. There was no emotion there, you know. It was just kind of a matter of fact. And I think that really is a testament and where He's able to bring you from if you really just do the work and if you just really trust in Him through it all. So it really was therapeutic for me to be able to put that on paper. And even though it brought back a lot of memories at times, it was great, and I don't regret any of it. So the next question is, if you're planning a sequel, can you share a tiny bit about your plans for it? I did at one time thought about doing a sequel, and I'm not saying what God doesn't intend, but if I were planning one, I think I would like to delve a little bit deeper into the topics that are mentioned in the book, because again, it wasn't the intention of this book was not to exhaust every avenue of the topics that I've discussed, but it was to shed light on it and why we should believe in those things and why we should implement those practices in our lives. And I think glory be to God that we did a good job really showcasing, what the next steps for any new believer are in their walk with the Lord. And I actually find it very helpful for me too, because as I was editing and reading it again, being a mature believer, I was able to just kind of go back to my foundation in Christ and realize that, wow, it's important to go back to basics. It's important to remember the simplicity of being saved, because sometimes we like to get a little high on the horse and forget the simplicity of it all. I think that if I was to do a sequel, it would probably be more geared towards kind of expanding on some of those ideas written in the book. So the next question is, what part of the book was the most fun to write? I think I had a lot of fun writing about Mary Magdalene. It was very exciting during that time because God just guided me towards the personal study on Mary Magdalene, and I just thought, wow, I got a front row seat to seeing the power of Jesus Christ in her life, and I had to put her in the book because a lot of people want to talk about Peter and Paul and John and this, David and Joseph and stuff, and Mary Magdalene hardly ever, her story's ever hardly told, and I think it was just God purposed for that, for me to learn a little bit more about her life and how Jesus has impacted it, and thus put it in the book. So that was really fun for me to write. So the last questions I have: how did you come up with the title? And what did you need in your writing space to help you stay focused? I needed the Bible in my writing space, so I can refer to it when God gives me the verse, in Google, so I can find it quickly. And peace and quiet. Sometimes I would put on instrumental worship music to set the mood and the tone, but that's all I needed in my writing space. And how I came up with the title was, again, when my friend, when she came to Christ, the premise around that was, hey, I am saved, so what do I do now? And we took off the first part and just left, what do I do now? Because I believe a lot of people ask that question. Okay, I'm saved, I gave my heart to the Lord, what happens next, right? Or what do I do now? And that's to expose the question in every person's mind that when they come to Christ, and also to answer that very question. And I think we did a pretty good job answering those questions throughout the book. Thank you again so much. And again, my name is Nakia, and check out the book. It's available on Amazon right now, and we're running a special deal. If you buy the paperback, you will receive a free gift. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.